The cyber attacks come in hundreds of different shapes and forms. They come as doctored photos circulating on Telegram, as fake accounts on Twitter, or as malicious data crashing websites. As Germany is about to elect a new parliament, cyber attacks like that loom large over the campaign. Some of them deploy brand new technology, while others rely on methods that have been tested for decades.
Das gehört zum geheimdienstlichen Repertoire seit Menschengedenken.
So how do you hack an election? And what can be done to protect them? To understand the kind of cyber threats hanging over elections, it helps to break them down into three categories, the three levels of election hacking. And on level 1, we start with what's most obvious, hacking. Attackers can directly hack into the computers that are used to run online campaign events or the election itself. Angela Merkel's conservative Christian Democrats experienced that firsthand when they met online to elect a new party chief. Again and again, hackers flooded their website with internet traffic until, at some point, it collapsed. After about an hour, the party managed to expel the intruders, and the site went back online. But the incidents raised concerns whether similar tactics could be used to disrupt the vote itself. Now, here in Germany at least, that seems unlikely. Unlike countries like the US, where electronic voting machines are used, Germans still cast their vote with pen and paper. That paper trail makes it practically impossible to hack the final result. But there still is a weak link. On election night, early results are reported electronically. After votes are counted in roughly 87,000 wards, a software is used to send the numbers to about 11,000 local authorities. From there to 299 election districts, then to 16 regional authorities, and finally to Germany's federal returning officer, who announces them to the public. If hackers manage to hack into the software, that could delay the announcement and create some chaos on election night. Authorities say they've got things under control.
Die Übermittlung der Wahlergebnisse geschieht nicht über das Internet, sondern über ein eigenes Netz und verschlüsselt.
So, all good? Not really, because even the best cybersecurity measures are of little help once we get to level 2 of election hacking, disinformation. That's damaging information spread deliberately to sway public opinion against certain candidates or certain parties. In April 2021, hours after Germany's Green Party announced who it was sending into the race for chancellor, photos began circulating online. They allegedly showed candidate Annalena Baerbock hugging colleagues at the height of the coronavirus pandemic without a mask. But the photos were fake. They came from footage shot years earlier, before the pandemic.
We do see disinformation campaigns against us. I'm Secretary General of the German Greens, and I'm in charge of the campaign. I'll give you another example.
Shortly after, fake quotes of Baerbock's appeared online, suggesting that she wants to prohibit kids from having pets at home.
You don't want to forbid pets, but it was circulating in Telegram, in WhatsApp, and whatsoever.
The party released a statement and spoke with Google to make sure that when people in Germany Google Annalena Baerbock and pets, the top results would be articles debunking the fake news. But months later, rumors persist that the Greens want to ban pets, which, to be completely clear, they don't.
Just yesterday, I was campaigning myself, and an old lady spoke about this topic, and it's just unbelievable nonsense.
And disinformation isn't only spread about candidates, it's also spread about the election itself, which is something we saw during regional elections in the state of Saxony-Anhalt in June. Ahead of the vote, a user on Twitter claimed to be an election worker determined to invalidate votes for the far-right AfD. Soon after, the tweet was shared by a top party official. But the photo posted with it did not show German election workers. It came from footage shot during the 2020 US election. These examples illustrate how easy it's become for anyone today to produce disinformation. All you need are some basic Photoshop skills and a social media account. And although it often just takes one Google search to debunk such cheap fakes, they still do damage. Now, there are ways how to fight back, and we'll get to them later. But first, let's talk about more professional disinformation campaigns, which are run by highly sophisticated players or even entire countries. It's a forbidding world of spies and secret operations, and under normal circumstances it's impossible to keep track of what's going on. But sometimes history allows us a glimpse of the methods that are used.
Over 4 decades, Communist East Germany ran some of the most successful disinformation campaigns in the world. Here, from its headquarters in East Berlin, the country's Stasi intelligence service bombarded West Germany with disinformation.
Besonders erfolgreich war man immer dann, wenn die Kampagnen einen wahren Kern hatten. Mein Name ist Daniela Münkel, ich leite die Forschung im Stasi-Unterlagenarchiv. Ich bin habilitierte Historikerin.
During Germany's peaceful revolution of 1989 and 90, civil rights activists prevented many Stasi files from being destroyed. Today, those documents provide unparalleled insights into how the Secret Service manipulated elections. They show how, for example, during West Germany's 1961 election campaign, the Stasi tried to discredit Social Democratic candidate Willy Brandt by spreading rumors about what he did while he was living in exile during the Nazi regime.
Sie waren nicht ganz falsch, aber sie waren falsch interpretiert. Also und mit einem falschen Unterton.
That's typical for successful disinformation campaigns. Usually they don't spread stories that are completely made up. Rather, they center on half-truths and bend facts to fit the narrative.
2 decades later, the Stasi struck anew. In 1980, West German Chancellor Helmut Schmidt was running against die-hard conservative Franz Josef Strauß, and the prospect of the Bavarian taking over the chancellery divided the country.
Es war wirklich derartig aufgeheizt. Ich war damals ja noch ganz jung, es war meine erste Wahl. Und es war das kann man sich gar nicht vorstellen, was da los war.
What people in West Germany didn't know was that across the Iron Curtain, the Stasi had a plan for adding fuel to the fire. The agency forged a 13-page document that looked like it came from inside Strauß' CSU party, suggesting that the Bavarians would split away from their conservative bloc after the election.
Und dieses Positionspapier spielte man dem Spiegel zu.
The magazine printed parts of it a few days ahead of the election. This made Strauß conservatives look in disarray, and they ended up scoring their worst result in 30 years.
To this day, disinformation is often spread by third parties who have no idea that they're being instrumentalized. Back in the Cold War, those were often journalists. Today, in the age of social media, it can be anyone, but journalists still often play a crucial role. Which brings us to the best-known cyber disinformation campaign to this day.
In 2016, emails from Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, which had been stolen by Russian hackers, were dumped on WikiLeaks.
You probably remember the week-long debate about the emails. What do you think? Would they have had the same impact they did had they not been picked up again and again by journalists?
Another batch of stolen emails.
More than 1,900 emails released just this weekend.
John Podesta's emails have provided Trump with a steady stream of new material.
Most media analysts say they wouldn't. And here we are on level 3 of election hacking. Sophisticated hybrid cyber operations which blend hacking attacks with disinformation campaigns and often run several of them at the same time. And the threat of such campaigns remains real, according to the head of Germany's Domestic Intelligence Service.
Wir sehen durchaus das Interesse bestimmter Staaten, auch auf die diesjährige Bundestagswahl Einfluss nehmen zu wollen.
Observations from Germany's neighbors, the Netherlands, which held elections earlier this year, suggest that authorities have reason for concern.
There was considerable effort to influence the public opinion. I'm a former digital campaigner, and I have watched the Dutch elections in my capacity as the founder and executive director of a foundation called Defend Democracy.
When Alice Stollmeyer's team monitored social media, they identified dozens of small cyber operations. In one instance, someone set up what pretended to be the official Telegram channel of a left-wing party and used it to spread falsehood. Elsewhere, fake profiles popped up on Twitter, pretending to be green politicians and provoking controversy.
Bad actors are so creative in finding endless new ways of doing bad stuff.
The parties denounced the profiles as fake, but the damage was done and the posts kept circulating online. Which brings us back to what we said earlier. Even if disinformation is debunked as fake, it still leaves traces of doubt. And over time, those traces of doubt add up, slowly eroding trust in democracy. It's a death by 1,000 cuts, if you will. Depressing? Yes and no, because there are ways how to tackle election meddling. When it comes to level 1, hacking, everyone, including politicians, can set up safeguards to better protect themselves. For example, by using safer passwords. But what about the disinformation on level 2 and level 3? We've seen that identifying it and debunking it alone won't do the job. So what else could be done?
The resiliency of a society is connected to a lot of things. I'm director of an organization called Futur 1. It's a think and do tank that deals with the digital public sphere. First is the platform. The platforms really don't care as much as they should.
Since 2018, when the world learned that consultancy Cambridge Analytica had used social media to sway elections from Nigeria to the US, tech giants have been under unprecedented scrutiny for how they deal with disinformation on their platforms.
They have launched efforts to better fight disinformation on their platforms, but particularly on encrypted messaging apps, a wildfire of disinformation rages on. And that's why experts say people also need to learn how to spot information that is meant to deceive them. The question now is, where and how do you teach people such media literacy?
It has to be in schools.
Finland, for example, already teaches media literacy in elementary schools.
About education for older people.
Something that less attention has been paid to.
But it has to be also a part of the media itself, because media can explain a lot to the people, and when they're talking about this information, they can describe how it's created, how does it work.
Well, we try our best. In all seriousness, hacking elections, our research showed us, is no new phenomenon.
Das gehört zum geheimdienstlichen Repertoire seit Menschen gedenken, und das wird es auch in Zukunft immer geben.
What's different today is that the internet, social media and encrypted messaging apps have made it easier and cheaper than ever. And new deepfake technology, which allows you to produce videos in which people say or do things they never did, will supercharge this development in the coming years. Already today, cyber attacks in all different kinds of shapes and forms are all around us. And it's time to boost media literacy to help people identify them. But then again, when it comes to the big operations run by specialists or even entire countries, how much do we actually know?
Die können nur offenkundig werden, wenn irgendwelche Fehler unterlaufen, damit es sozusagen auffliegt.
Glauben Sie, der Großteil dieser Informationskampagnen kommt ans Licht?
Nein, ich glaube nicht, dass der Großteil ans Licht kommt. Also da ist einiges sicherlich im Verborgenen.